Less than a decade after America's Great Depression of the early 1930s, the country was hit yet again by a massive recession in 1937. Unemployment levels reached nearly 20% by 1938. The United States witnessed an increase in the emigration of people to other countries for the first time in American history. Skiing in the U.S. was a pastime primarily known by only the wealthy, reserved for those that could afford to travel to Austria or the mountains of Europe, where the sport had a strong foothold for many generations. Little could one envision that it would be skiing itself that would stimulate the economy of a quaint, depression-torn valley in north-central New Hampshire. Mount Washington Valley, then known as the Eastern Slope region, was the boyhood home of New York financier and visionary Harvey Dow Gibson. During the winter of 1937-38, Gibson used his influence and extraordinary willpower to virtually resurrect the struggling economy of the area.
Harvey Dow Gibson was a North Conway native son. Became the youngest bank president in New York City at age 34, but he never forgot his hometown. And he came home for the holidays of Christmas '36, which was when Carol Reed had started his ski school up in Jackson. In those days, there was a big rivalry between the resort towns, and Gibson remembered that, having grown up here. But he accompanied his stepdaughter to Whitney's, saw her take ski lessons, and pondered over the Christmas holidays, whatever Jackson can do, his good old North Conway could do better. And that's when he, in January '37, he quietly acquired Cranmore.
Then, hiring the services of local entrepreneur and skiing pioneer Carol Reed, Gibson paid Reed to move a rope tow lift from nearby Jackson and install it at his new ski mountain. In the same year, Gibson and his crew cut a ski slope right down the middle of the mountain. Opened for business in December of 1937, Gibson's new ski area would be called Mount Cranmore. During the same summer of 1937, Gibson bought a large inn right in the center of North Conway, remodeled it, and renamed it the Eastern Slope Inn. It became a first-class destination for travelers near and far.
The economy in winter used to go to sleep around here, so his idea as a banker, as a native son, was I could stimulate the valley's economy. And so you had Cranmore, then you had the hotel. Next thing, Carol Reed's ski school, he asked him to open a branch here the first winter of Cranmore, the second winter of the ski school. And that's why 75 years later we're celebrating, because that first lift service skiing was the winter of '37-38 here.
To say Gibson was an innovator would be an understatement. Tourists flocked to the region, hopping aboard passenger snow trains from cities like Boston and Portland each Friday. The trains delivered throngs of tourists right into the center of North Conway, where the tourists would enjoy a weekend of skiing and adventure.
People could come to North Conway, and the GIs could come to North Conway, and they'd get off the train in North Conway, and they could walk to the mountain, and they could walk to the movies, and they could walk to the restaurants. And this was the only ski area in the East where they could do that.
Not content to rely on just his rope tow to carry skiers up the mountain, in 1938, Gibson commissioned local mechanic and inventor George Morton to design a safe and sturdy ski lift up the center of Mount Cranmore. The Ski-Mobile Tramway opened in December of that year, a one-of-a-kind lift that transported skiers and tourists alike to the top of the mountain year-round for over 50 years.
I think you can't really understand the development of Cranmore as a ski area without the context of what had just happened a year or two before at Sun Valley, Idaho, where the Union Pacific Railroad, under its president, Averell Harriman, had opened really the first American ski resort that put everything together that we think of today as a ski resort. Lodging for skiers, a ski school, and a new form of uphill transportation, which in Sun Valley's case was the chairlift that they invented. Averell Harriman was a great friend of Harvey Dow Gibson. So I really see Gibson as trying to replicate what Harriman had done at Sun Valley. Not wanting to replicate what Harriman had done exactly, he's looked around for a new form of transportation, the ski mobile. It was a huge publicity boon for Cranmore and Harvey Gibson.
While business at the mountain flourished, Gibson had it in mind to move his business to the next level, something to put Mount Cranmore on the national skiing map. Gibson knew that in order for his business to grow, he would need to figure out a way to teach people to ski. In 1939, using his international connections, Gibson orchestrated the release by the Nazis of the famed Austrian ski meister Hannes Schneider. Schneider was famous for having founded the first formal ski school in his home village of St. Anton, Austria in 1907. Schneider was known worldwide for pioneering his Arlberg method of skiing, where skiers are taught to bend their knees. He was also known for his anti-Nazi sentiments, which earned him some attention from the wrong side of the fence, and he landed in prison.
My father was arrested because of his anti-Nazi feelings, and he was very outspoken towards Hitler and his politics, because he happened to be in Berlin at the time Hitler took power, so he saw a lot of things which he didn't like.
And that's where Gibson came in.
To say who this guy was, he was the Michael Jordan of skiing. He was, the Babe Ruth, Bobby Orr of skiing and ski instruction. So when he was imprisoned by the Nazis for his anti-Nazi views in March 1938 was when Nazi Germany annexed Austria, and so he was imprisoned. And Harvey Gibson, through his international connections, he was able to go behind the scenes to spring Hannes's release from house arrest. He was being held in Germany.
Schneider arrived at Mount Cranmore on February 11, 1939, a date that has come to define the beginning of the popularization of skiing in America.
Got off the train and we were met by the local people, and the kids were out there with skis and ski poles, and formed an arch. We marched underneath, and they had a band playing there. And it was a beautiful day, blue skies, and it was white. There was snow on the ground.
While war was about to wage in Europe, Mount Cranmore bloomed as Schneider, who came to be considered the father of modern skiing, established his ski school.
And he looked around and said, well, he said, it isn't Austria, it isn't St. Anton, but I'm going to love it here, and he certainly did. He enjoyed every minute of life in the United States.
Under the wing of Hannes was son and protege Herbert. Herbert became certified as an instructor in 1940, and not knowing at first how to speak English, he shadowed his American colleagues during ski lessons to learn what to say in order to teach his students.
The winter of 39-40 was a very successful year. We had a very good class attendance in classes. We gave over 20,000 lessons.
When World War II broke out, Herbert joined the cause in 1943. The war years were good to Mount Cranmore and to North Conway, both of which prospered. Ski trains continued to bring in tourists, along with GIs visiting on leave from overseas duty. North Conway provided the perfect destination for soldiers looking to fill their time.
And so, actually, North Conway boomed during the war because it became a haven for the GIs on leave.
During the 1940s, Cranmore continued to pave the way for modern skiing, helping to pioneer the development of trail grooming technology.
One thing we hardly ever think about these days is where the process of snow grooming came from. And it came from Cranmore. It originated at Cranmore in the system that we think of now with tractors going over snow, pulling implements. By 1940 or 1941, Cranmore was experimenting with using a small agricultural tractor, dragging mats, rollers, and even road graders to condition the slopes.
Herbert became involved in the Eastern Slope Ski Club, serving as director from 1947 to 1962. The ski club has taught thousands of children from the Mount Washington Valley how to ski since its inception in 1935 and the beginning of the junior program in 1938. Schneider was a big supporter of the program, remarking that it taught kids how to learn to ski for free.
Here in the valley, all of the children are very fortunate because we do have Eastern Slope Ski Club, which has been long supported by Cranmore and the other mountains within the valley. Way back when Herbert was here and very young, he was all for the program. It was like every child must ski, whether it's cross country, snowboarding, alpine skiing, or racing.
Herbert himself took over the ski school in 1955 after his father's passing. He was married in 1966 and had two sons, Hannes and Christoph. Skiing in Cranmore was as much a part of their upbringing as it was for their father in St. Anton, Austria.
We used to come up here after school every day, change in the back seat of Mom's station wagon and come up and ski the last hour of the day and then go home with Dad at the end of his work day.
It's true, as kids we didn't have a babysitter, we had a ski instructor. We were thrown into ski school. And it was such a small community then, such a family operation. The people we skied with then are now, people we're skiing with together with their sons, their families. My fiance and I skied together 40 years ago here as kids, and now we're getting married in September. So it's just the progression, the continuation, the generation to generation of Cranmore. That's what it means to us.
Starting with Harvey Gibson's desire to bring high-level racing to Cranmore with the Gibson Cup from 1940 to 1966, Cranmore has kept the tradition alive, starting with the local yokel races in 1972. Now known as Mountain Meisters, these weekly races attract hundreds of adult racers from the area and beyond in friendly yet highly competitive weekly competitions. The ski racing program at Cranmore is without equal, having produced world-class racers such as Brooks Dodge, Imogene Opton, David Courier, Abby Fisher, Tyler and Terry Palmer, as well as present-day Olympian Leanne Smith.
Leanne Smith is one of our homegrown Olympic skiers now. She started out here in nursery privates. I started skiing with her when she was 4 years old, and she progressed to the race program, onto skiing for Mount Washington Valley Ski Team and Kennett High School, onto the Olympics. And we're very proud of her and wish her the best this season and to come.
In 1987, the mountain observed its 50th anniversary with a celebration called Flight Without Wings. To cap off the celebration was the production of a historical film of the same name and the unveiling of a statue of Cranmore's own ski meister, Hannes Schneider. For 25 years, the bronze has provided the perfect welcome to skiers from near and far. With the loss of many mom-and-pop ski areas that could no longer survive the economy, Cranmore continued innovating and investing in new developments like grooming, new snowmaking equipment, and in 2003 they became the first ski area east of the Mississippi to run its grooming equipment with biodiesel fuel.
If you look at the last 30 years in the ski industry, there's been a lot of ski areas, unfortunately, that have closed. It's a reality that I think the whole ski industry faces because you either stepped up to the plate with snowmaking and grooming and all the modern technologies that are out there for the modern customer, or you fell behind. And the unique aspect is Cranmore has always stayed right there. I will say the early 2000s, a lot of ski areas felt the pinch and a lot of competition and a lot more stress to keep your snowmaking and your facilities up.
In the winter of 2007 to 2008, Cranmore became the first ski area in the region to introduce weekly video updates on their webpage, responding directly to the changing needs of tourists interested in planning their weekend. The commitment to invest in the future has never been so evident than with the ownership group of Brian and Tyler Fairbanks and Joseph O'Donnell, who purchased Cranmore in 2010. The owners wasted no time in upgrading and improving the property with a $7 million investment made possible with the help of CNL Lifestyle Properties.
The vision that Steve Rice and CNL and Brian Fairbank and Tyler Fairbank had in Cranmore over the last 3 years has really been a revival for the mountain. It's taken the appropriate steps with the first-class children's program, the first-class lifts, the first-class snowmaking, the first-class grooming, the first-class customer service. All those steps are practices that they believe in and I believe in, and we're just thrilled to be part of this group to take it into the future.
Under the direction of Harvey Gibson, Cranmore has always looked to stay competitive in the economy during all 4 seasons of the year, starting with the opening of the ski-mobile in 1938. The new owners understand the same business philosophy, and since 2010 have added more summer activities and features, including New England's first mountain coaster in 2010, a canopy tour, and the addition of the Soaring Eagle zip rider and giant swing installed in 2012.
And again, want to thank everybody for coming. This is an exciting day in our history.
On December 28, 2012, Mount Cranmore again immortalized the great Schneider name by dedicating a new triple chairlift on the east slopes of the mountains, naming it, you guessed it, the Schneider Triple.
To be here and be part of the dedication of the new Schneider Triple in honor of my father was fantastic. You know, he was just a guy that loved this valley as his home and wanted to give back to the valley, and I think he'd be honored, like I said earlier, that this was happening for him, but he was very humble and he would wonder what all the fuss was about, because that's just kind of the way that you do things.
Hundreds of locals and visitors from near and far have grown and benefited from the Cranmore factor. Cranmore is all about people, and some who come here, like the Schneiders themselves, become family, passing their love of skiing from one generation to the next. From their first tracks as a grade schooler at Cranmore Ski School, passing it on down the line to their own children a generation later.
Welcome to Cranmore's Arbor Children's Center. We opened in the 2011 season, and this encapsulates the whole idea that Cranmore is devoted to children. We've got new area all around you. You'll see several new slopes down here. They're all named after our mascot, Seymour, the penguin. The Children's Center is the showpiece of the entire devotion to children that we have here at Cranmore, which is a continuation of what our whole legacy is. It's teaching, it's riding, it's having fun, it's skiing. "75 years ago, a man named Gibson had the vision of bringing new vitality to his small town. Little could he know that generations later there would be thousands upon thousands of people whose lives had changed forever because of his drive and determination."
I have been here for 40 plus years. I grew up skiing at Cranmore. I started when I was 2. Sonny Lynch, a friend of my parents, took me to Cranmore and got me started because neither of my parents were skiers. And my whole family has grown up skiing at Cranmore, either skiing and then going off to school and coming back and working. My brother Quentin works as an instructor. Both my daughters work as instructors. My brother works in the race department, as well as his son now has joined us in snow sports school this year. So it's a family affair.
From the men and women who scraped that first trail from the side of the mountain in 1937, to the first ski school, early grooming machines, Olympian skiers who learned there, to this very day in 2013. The story of Cranmore is indelibly linked with the town of North Conway. Together, the two have grown and changed in a symbiosis that began 75 years ago with all but a vision and a dream of one man.
Whether it's the Carol Reeds, the Hannah Schneider arrival, the Schneider family's contributions over the years, and the multi-generations of impact of some very significant people really put Cranmore on the map nationally and internationally because of the Schneiders and Harvey Gibson's contributions.
Who among the ranks of the little ones learning to ski on the slopes of Mount Cranmore today will take us into the next 75 years?
I wanted to call the book A Town and Its Mountain. And all you have to do is stand down there at the North County train station, and we have a great photo by Brookie Dodge in the book. But you've got the train station at your back, as Hannes Schneider and family did on that morning in 1939. And you look across the park, you see the village and Main Street, and you see this mountain. And I think it's really a town and its mountain, and that's the symbiotic nature of Cranmore's place in the community and in ski history.
Our location being right in North Conway is a fantastic asset to the mountain, because having a ski town like North Conway and the Mount Washington Valley, we're absolutely blessed with all the resources of that. And then having such a great mountain with all this variety and lifts and everything right at the doorstep of one of the greatest ski towns, as I said, in the country, that's probably the super unique factor of the mountain. There's very few in the country that get to a 75th anniversary, and the multi-generations that have been involved with Cranmore, it's just a special place, and there's a lot of pride that goes with everybody that's involved with this great mountain.